Hey, middle-aged gamers! Welcome back to another middle-aged gaming episode. This episode has been pre-recorded. 13 will actually be the number for January because that's what I wrote it down on the calendar. So I do remember that part. But as I was saying, this is pre-recorded because Adam's going to be away. I'm going to be away in December. It'll give us a bit of a break so we can relax, that sort of stuff. Today we're talking about games. Do you remember the good old days of gaming when you woke up and you were 6 years old and you jumped into your computer if you did that? Or maybe you just went outside and played like a normal kid. But we're talking about gaming nostalgia and all the things and the warm, honey syrupy feelings you felt growing up, and maybe you don't feel them anymore. So, I took this one way as usual, right? If you watch some of our old episodes, we had some of these more eccentric topics. Everyone's going to be different. The topic was quote unquote gaming and nostalgia. I'm looking forward to how the guys are going to talk about it.
So if I can set up my childhood and have my notes here, so sorry if it looks like I'm reading because I most likely are, but if I can set up my childhood game genre, that would be mainly RPGs, and I don't think I'm shocking everyone. I'm born in the 80s, right? So that's logic. And there's another genre which really occupied too much of my time at the time, and that's real-time strategy, or what you call RTS. So in the 80s, of course, you must have played some of these classic, now legendary titles like Command and Conquer, with Tiberium Wars, Red Alert, those generals. I'm never big fan of generals, but it existed as well. You had Age of Empire, 1, 2, 3. You had Age of Mythology. If you had some LAN party, trying to carry your big ass computer to your friends, have LAN party. You had Total Annihilation, which was absolutely fantastic to play with. RTS at the time was a big thing. Even now, right? Think about Blizzard. Big ass Activision Blizzard. They were burst by RTS, like a Warcraft 1, 2, and 3, before, which gave birth to World of Warcraft, which makes all the money Blizzard own today and makes them worth enough for Microsoft to buy. So, big success story which started on RTS. Of course, Blizzard is also StarCraft 1 and 2, which are extremely old, and yet they are an esport favorite even now. So, big thing. Command and Conquer, it was so successful that, it was made by a studio called Westwood Studio, in 1998. EA bought them for $122 million. So, of course, if you compare to now, Microsoft being Blizzard, you say, that's nothing. No, think back in time, in 98, that's a massive gamble and a lot of money. EA could have completely sunk on this one if they messed up. So really, like RTS, that's my nostalgia stuff. And even if you were born in the 90s, right, if you're a bit younger than me, end of 2000, you had the Warhammer Dawn of War 1 and 2. I'm not counting 3. That's not an RTS, that's an action. And you had another Red Alert 3 with Yuri's Revenge, which actually was really cool. I love playing it. And we already talked about it, on this channel before. But while RTS was a rave when we were kids, because that was the fun stuff, especially with all these little bits of movies, especially in the Command and Conquer franchise, actual bit of movies as cinematics. That was absolutely fantastic. Really cringe, but fantastic. Right now, it's very niche genre with very few games coming these days. Like I can think of Age of Empire 4, which came out in 2021. 5 is planned for 2027, so that's good. That means it's not dead, but who actually downloaded Age of Empire 4 just on nostalgia alone and actually played it? I'd like to see who actually did, because it really looks like it doesn't look like a Star Citizen, let's say. And yeah, that's my nostalgia, because all good old classic RTS, well, that's what they are, old, and doesn't really exist anymore. So now, if you think about the future of this franchise, now you have a cash grab mobile game called Command and Conquer Legion. Woohoo! Or a potential StarCraft shooter we talked about last week, like in the same vibe as Space Marine 2, which of course will never come out because Games Workshop is going to activate the IP saying, hey, your game looks like mine, cancel it right now. When, like fans like me, and we are Legion, without pun intended, but we want a Red Alert 4 or StarCraft 3 or a brand new IP. We know that Warcraft 4 is never going to come out because World of Warcraft is extending the story very far. So make your peace with it. But a Red Alert 4 or StarCraft 3 should be great. So, yeah, I mean, the time has passed. And the best we can do right now is console yourself on Paradox, Ground 4X strategy, a good old Stellaris or Heart of Iron or things like this. It's not the same. Clearly, it's not the same. Or Civilization. That's the really real time. That's not real time, but strategy you can play right now. So if you're like me, you're craving the return of some famous RTS franchise. Well, or you would like to see a new IP on old RTS gameplay. Well, come to talk about it with me and us in the comment section, because I'd love to see, because maybe, it's very niche again and not very well advertised. So maybe there's some great RTS, likely indie, not AAA of course, but maybe some great indie RTS that I don't know about. So if you know anything, if you have any good recommendation, I would love to have a good old fun RTS like this. Of course, I'm thinking about Advance Wars on the Nintendo side. That was also great as well, but we only got a reboot camp a couple of years ago, and that was a remaster of an old game. So really, nothing really new under the sun on that front, on that genre. And that's my nostalgia part on this show. I feel the gray hair coming now. What do you guys think?
Following from Antoine's story, because when I thought about this topic, the first thing I thought about was the release of Warcraft 1 and Warcraft 2 Remaster. And I watched some videos about it, and I was like, those are the days. Because for me, the first game that really sparked my passion for gaming was this game called Rogue, which was like on a 16-bit color computer, something I had back in the day. That was it. But then the first game that I was like really played a lot was Command & Conquer 1 in 1995. I remember because I went to Virgin Studios in England at that time. It was my first like international vacation with my mom and my dad. And I played, that's probably the longest gaming session I've ever had in my life, which compared to Adam or Antoine might not be a lot, but it was 6 hours where I played Command & Conquer when I got home. And I feel like, and maybe this is just not RTS games, but like maybe gaming in general has become so much more complicated, and maybe that's not even gaming, maybe it's life. Yes, really philosophical today. Because looking back at like Warcraft 1, Warcraft 2 Remastered, it's like so simple. But like Antoine talked about Age of Empires 4, right? And I played it and I was like, man, this is fun. I remember why I like RTSs. And then I made the huge mistake of playing it with a friend of mine from high school, who we were super competitive back then. I was really into strategy. My brain was faster, not like right now. And he was like, Korean, the whole time we were playing together, we were playing against Korean, you need to put these guys over there. Oh, you need to pull these guys faster. It was just, he wasn't shouting, he was communicating very nice and calmly. And I'm like, oh my God, I just want to quit this game. It is too difficult. So it makes me think, and my coming back to the modern times of how RTS is changing. Like Antoine talked about RTS, right? We had two big RTS games kickstarted in this year. One was kind of like the end of 2023, right? I don't remember the names offhand. I kickstarted one of them. They're both on Steam. You can check them out. And people are trying to do this sort of RTS genre again. One of the ways I think people are doing it is a big focus on single player campaigns. Like both RTSs, I didn't kickstart one, but I kickstarted the second one. Both of them have like 30 mission single player campaigns, which is like the last time we did that was like a good old Warcraft or good old Command & Conquer. And even beyond that, people are trying to incorporate this RTS formula into different games. The trailer that I'm going to show when I'm cutting the story is a game called Mechabellum, which is an RTS game where it's an auto battler, where it's not about your APM or actions per minute, right? It's like, hey, I'm building the units. They're going to fight for me. I don't have to click like a crazy person. I just need to think about the strategy. And to me, that's awesome, because as an older person, man, I cannot think that fast. And I've already said it again, so I'll say it the second time. But yeah, like to me, there's nostalgia. I want games to be simpler. I want to have fun. I don't want them to be systems on top of systems on top of systems on top of systems. And before the show, and this is my bad, I should record it. Tuan and Adam were talking about Final Fantasy 14 and how complicated it is. Like after you've not been in a live service game like that, and Warframe like that is for me because I think I tried to play last year, and I played for an hour and I'm like, yeah, this is fun. But I'm like, I go back to the spaceship. It's like, hey, you have all these missions to do. Hey, you have all this equipment to craft. Hey, you have all these other in-game content. I'm like, oh my God, shut up. I don't know what to do. Delete. That was the end of Warframe. So I hope games, and not I hope, I know games are becoming simpler. And going back to a theme that you guys heard me sort of bang this hammer on is that like indie game studios are making the simple games, which is good for them. I still worry about AAA games sort of being multi-layered, wormholes or complexity. But yeah, I miss the good old days of simple Warcraft 3. I was watching the Warcraft 2 remaster video and I was just listening to the sounds. I'm like, oh my God. Every time you click on a piano and he says that phrase, and I don't remember it now, but like that was easy. Yeah, that's it for me. Any thoughts, gents?
Thank you very much. Now, because again, these days, the most fun games I have are not AAAs, right? So I don't discriminate against indies. If someone want to make a good old indie or TS, I would be like, thank you, sir. Here's my money. And I mentioned it a little bit before, but something I really missed from this, back in the day, is that the real goofy era that you had in the game. Like, I don't know if you remember the intro of Red Alert 3, I think, when, in this world you have a chronosphere, you can travel through time, and the guy goes to shake Einstein's hands just because it would cause some singularity and make him disappear. And all of a sudden, the West doesn't win. Now Russia is in power, and they forgot the timeline got screwed up, and all of a sudden Japan is this battle mech that's coming to attack the muzzle, and you wouldn't have that anymore. Too much political landmine to step on. But that was fun. That was really fun. It was at the time where the Cold War was finally done. It was sewing up, so now you could say whatever you wanted, kind of. And really, it reflected that, warm up in political relation. Now that's clearly not the case, unfortunately. Who knows? Maybe in 20 years, when it warms up again, we'll have some more goofy content. It's not much of a story, really, and more of a disclaimer, so I'm going to just do it within 3 minutes, and maybe we should have done that at the beginning of the show, but I feel that we're going to get about 100 or so comments saying, okay, boomers, yeah, games were better that's full on nostalgia, yeah, it was better before and everything. On some things, especially on what Adam just said, yes. More honest reviews and things like this, definitely. And we're not against evolution of gaming, right? Because just ask Korean what he feels like playing a 20 years old game, even if it was a classic, with good old gameplay. That's torture. On gameplay, the games now are beautiful. There's lots of improvement, and yes, we want to continue improving these games, right? But just leave us old folks having some nostalgia moment about, hey, in my childhood we did this, so that was fantastic. They don't do that anymore. Because some things were very good and disappeared because of XYZ, and if they don't exist anymore, there's definitely a reason for it. But if you want to leave 100 comments saying, okay, boomers, it's fine because it's going to increase the visibility of this video, so please do so. I'll be the first one to do it. And yes, so that's just a disclaimer, not really a 5-minute story. That's fine for me, but yeah, I just wanted to say it. Yes, we are not discriminating against you younger players because you had the luck of being born later, right? It's fine. We just like our eras, like you will like yours when you're 40. Just remember what I said when you hit 40s. And no, that's it.
True that. Then my last quick story is, beyond the artist category, I thought about multiplayer gaming and I don't think I ever had a LAN party growing up in South Africa, but I did do like three brothers crowded around a single computer playing a game on a single screen. I did that. But to me, multiplayer gaming growing up, like before the 2000s, was going to the arcade. And one of the very first games I played multiplayer and I loved playing was the old Michael Jackson arcade game, which I thought was just in the arcade, but of course was a Sega game. And it was fun and fantastic. And I was not really big into Michael Jackson, but I loved like Michael Jackson could shoot lightning out of his hands, and he had a special power where you do like dancing and the lights come down from the sky and kill people. That was pretty awesome too. But multiplayer gaming has evolved so much. Like, and to me, like my RTS story was a bit like, you know, kind of negative, like remembering the good old days of RTSs. This is, I think, is positive because gaming to play with people, right, was so much more difficult back in those days. You had to go to somebody's house or in a LAN party, right? You had to have somebody who had like a network hub and knew how to connect internet cables and who knew how IP addresses and TCP/IP worked and how to do this in a gaming system, right? Even in like playing on the same screen, right? Back in those days, you need someone who he'd go to their house and was that okay? And if you were an Asian kid or an Indian kid, right? Like that was impossible. Like you should be home studying. No, you can go over to your friends. I never went to a friend's house when I was growing up. It was not cool. But now, right, like Adam and Antoine and myself, we can play games together, right? Like despite Antoine living in Canada, Adam living not too far away from my house. Yeah, that works, right? And we can play a large variety of games. Steam has, you can play a game and somebody who doesn't even own the game can help you play the game and control something inside it, right? Like there's so much opportunity, so many more ways to connect with people, right? I know a lot of you extroverted people like, let's go out and have a meal or drink a beer or something. But like, yeah, your introverted friends want to play Jack in the Box or whatever other game it is going to be, right? Like, give it a chance. I think we're already moved into, but maybe even more into an area or a life where there's a game for everybody out there. There's a game for Adam's wife who hates gaming, right? I still believe one day, somehow, somewhere, maybe before Adam retires when he's 60, he's going to get his wife to play a game with him. Same for Antoine and his wife at some point. Maybe it's already happened. I don't know. But yeah, and I think that's a wonderful thing, right? A wonderful way to connect with people is to game with them, be it video game or board game or cell phone game or whatever it is, right? Like we can connect with each other that way, which is wonderful. What do you guys think? And with that, thank you everyone for tuning in for today's episode. As I mentioned at the beginning, this is pre-recorded, but I will still be around in Taiwan replying to your comments. If you do have comments, please leave them there. Stay tuned for next week where potentially, hopefully, Adam can make it. And we're going to talk about our favorite games that we played, the things that we love most, that maybe you skipped over this year. You didn't see anything about it in the news because you were busy with work or school, whatever it is, or family. Come out to the next episode, put it on your Google Calendar, check it out because you can hear some of the games that we absolutely loved. And these games are things that actually you might consider putting on your wish list or buying at some point in the future. And yeah, you don't want to miss it. And then we'll see you guys next week.